This compressor's been right underneath this bench for, God, I don't even know really. I've lost track of how long I've had the blooming thing. Pretty sure it's about 5 years, maybe even 6 years. But it's been under there pretty much the whole time. Got it out now and again to change the oil, which I did once. So let's take it out and let's have a little bit of a, and we'll call it a 5-year review on this SGS air compressor. How's it been for 5 years? How often do I use it? And what's it good for? So there we go. I've pulled it out from its little home. I put the handle on it because it never had the handle on it because it wouldn't fit underneath the bench. I've noticed in the last, well, probably about the last year, that it did spring an oil leak, and it's dripping oil from the bottom of that case, and it's gone all around the whole receiver. But that's alright, because we can still see in that sight glass that it's on the red dot, so it's on the line, which is fine. This is the direct drive version. Obviously 2 pistons and an electric motor. The downside with the direct drive is they are noisier than belt driven, but it depends on what it is you want to do really. Now I've used this for varying applications over the last, I've honestly forgotten, I've lost track. It must be 6 years, but perhaps it's 5. Anyway, we're going to call it 5 years. I've used this for various applications over the last 5 years, and it's done really, really well. It's 100 litre, 14.6 CFM, 3 horsepower, 230 volt, 50 hertz, 97 decibels. It's an SC100V. Very simple design, and as I say, it's done really, really well. I've got all of the SGS tools to go with it, the air drill, the grinder, the impact, and I've got quite a lot of other SGS tools like the jacks and all that other stuff as well. And it handles everything really, really well. The only downside is if you're doing a lot of things like painting, because I did use this to do a lot of painting. I painted the whole garden fence with it once. I painted all along there, all behind the windy house, that fence there, and also that fence there with it once. And not with what's on it now. What's on it now is creosote, but I put like a water-based fence paint in the spray gun, and I've done the whole lot, and I've done round the back of the garage along the side and everything with it as well, with water sealer a couple of years ago now. And that's the only downside that I'll say of it, is if you're doing a lot of things where there's it's a lot of air quickly, using a lot of air quick, you do have to wait for it to pump up, because if you keep using it while it's pumping, the pressure gets lower and lower and lower and it can't keep up. But that is the one and only downside. But to be fair, that is with a lot of compressors anyway, unless you're getting into the bigger, more industrial ones with bigger pistons. They can keep up. With your ordinary home ones, you do have to wait for them to pump up, get the pressure back up again. That's just how they are. So I wouldn't say that's a downside of that specific compressor, that specific model or brand. I'd say it's just that size of compressor, full stop. So I've got underneath here the oil, whatever I'll call it, an oil regulator, but that's probably not the right word for it. But you stick tool oil in there, and it feeds your tools oil as you're using them. So I did have that hooked up. Obviously I've unconnected it now to get everything out, but I had that connected up to one of the lines, because one of these is adjusted, you can adjust the pressure, and the other one is just straight whatever the receiver pressure is. I think that's this one, could be wrong. I think this one is the one you can adjust the pressure of with this little valve. Now I had that one connected to the tools because I wanted to better vary the pressure going to which tool I was using, and I had this one, which is always connected to just an air gun or a tyre inflator, just on the straight pressure. And yeah, it's absolutely great. I've got loads of genuine SGS air hose. Don't know how many feet of it's there, but I've used that with it, ran it right out to the road, right out of the driveway to undo wheels and all that, lug nuts and all that kind of stuff in the past, using the SGS impact, which we have. Oh no, oh it is which we have here. Got a little oil bottle for it. Yeah, when I bought the compressor, and when I got the compressor, I got the whole thing with it. I got everything, because if you're going for one certain brand, you might as well go for everything they do. And I've also used this with it. This is a bit more industrial, a bit more heavy duty, I suppose is the word, but it handles this very well as well. I haven't used this one quite so much as I use this one. I use this one primarily, but this one I have used a fair bit, and it does a very good job at getting off wheel nuts, anything else that you need to use it for. Got different adapters and things there. Comes in this kit. So I definitely recommend getting that, that's for sure. But when it comes to deciding what compressor do you want, you might be looking at the SGS range of compressors. What size do you need? A 50 litre, 100 litre? Do you need direct drive, belt drive? Well, I would say always go bigger than what you think that you need. Definitely, because there's nothing worse than getting yourself a little, like this isn't SGS, but there's nothing worse than getting yourself a little compressor like this one, which is very, very handy for small jobs. This one's obviously Ryobi. SGS used to sell Ryobi stuff, and then they stopped for some reason, which is a shame, because they were a good place to get Ryobi stuff from. But nothing worse than getting yourself a little compressor, and it does your little jobs that you want, but then you might progress and you want more airflow or more pressure or just more of air, if that makes any sense, and your little compressor can't keep up, and then you have to go and buy yourself another compressor. Whereas if you just get one that's bigger than what you need, you're not running that at its full capacity the whole time. So it's going to have an easy life. And when you need that extra bit of pressure, that extra bit of flow, or just more air in general before it has to re-pump itself up again, you've already got it covered. And it'll be a good investment. As far as belt or direct drive goes, think of the scenario of where you are. The main thing I would say is the place where you're going to put the compressor, is it sensitive to noise? So if you're in if you've got a garage in a neighbourhood, for example, a direct drive one could be an issue because they're quite noisy all the time, whereas a belt driven one's more of a very quiet, more of like a puff, 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 puff. So you have to think about that kind of thing, you know. But that's just a small factor, and that's down to you as an individual person. You know, what is your scenario? If you're in like a workshop somewhere, well, to be fair though, if you was in an industrial workshop or a mechanic's garage or something like that, you'd probably just have a belt driven one anyway, because they were a lot faster, in my opinion, over the years of being a fabrication engineer, fabrication welder. We use a lot of compressed air. And in the workshop, in the main workshop, there's a big belt-driven compressor. But obviously for me, at home, in the garage, a little direct drive one was ideal. The noise was the downside, but listen, I'm not worried about little things like that sometimes. So yeah, think about those things when you're buying a compressor. One of the other things that I would say you should think about when buying a compressor is the regulator. Some compressors, particularly the more cheaper Chinese ones, they don't have the ability to regulate the pressure. It's just pressure. You know, you might not even have a gauge on some of them, but a lot of them there is a gauge, but there's no valve to regulate your pressure. So think to yourself, do I need to be able to regulate my pressure, or do I want a full 8 or whatever it is bar all the time? It is very handy to be able to regulate your pressure, because if you get things like drills, grinders and other tools, sometimes they have a maximum pressure, so you have to regulate that. So that's something else you need to just think about. All these things, they're not massive problems, they're just small things to consider when you're buying your compressor. When I first got hold of this compressor, obviously brand spanking new from SGS, I did an unboxing video of it, and SGS reached out to me and said, we'd like to send you the belt driven version to compare. And I said, great, yes please, but it never actually happened, which is a shame, because I was really looking forward to comparing the direct drive version of it, the 100 litre compressor, to the belt driven version of the 100 litre compressor. But maybe one day in the future I'll get a belt driven one when I've got the space. The reason why I went personally for the direct drive one was because of where I wanted to put it underneath the workbench there. The belt driven one has obviously the belts with the flywheel coming out. I don't know if it's left or right side, but anyway, it has the big flywheel on the side of the compressors there, and a big, like a cowling going over the belts, obviously to protect it from things going in it and people chopping their fingers off. And that wouldn't fit. I got the measurements off the website, and it wouldn't fit underneath the bench. As you can see, this direct drive one only just fits underneath the bench. In fact, it does hit slightly when I'm pushing it underneath there, but I wanted it to live more or less permanently under there, but it just wouldn't have fitted, so I had no choice but to go for the direct drive version. The only difference obviously is the compressor itself. The receiver is exactly the same, the regulator is exactly the same. Don't know whether the motor that drives the compressor would be the same motor. I would assume so, but I don't know for sure. But yeah, maybe one day I will get one if I ever get more space to be able to put a slightly bigger compressor, and we can compare the two, because obviously I'm still going to have this one, and then we can compare the two different styles. So there we go. If you've been watching this channel for quite some time and you remember when I unboxed this compressor, that's how long ago that it was, and it's still going strong. It's still blooming pumping air out like no tomorrow. This compressor is more or less permanently switched on when I'm around. I do actually physically switch the switch off at night time, or if I'm not indoors. I don't like the idea of things being on when I'm not here. But when I walk in, open up the garage, one of the first things I do is flick on the on switch, because I like to have air if I need it. Doing a lot of things like that, cleaning stuff and drills and whatever else, it's nice to just have air on tap. So yeah, it's been a very good workhorse so far, 5 or 6 years later, and I definitely recommend going and having a look. If you're thinking about getting a compressor, definitely consider SGS, and consider that compressor there, the 100 litre one, or the smaller brother, the 50 litre, depending on what you need it for. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one, and see what else I can find to do a 5-year review on. No, I'm only joking. I haven't got a lot of stuff to do 5-year reviews on, but I do get a lot of people ask me, they watched the other videos years ago, comment on that video like, how is it now, what's it like now? And I keep meaning to tell you lot what it's like now, because it's an absolute gem of a workhorse, and I keep meaning to do it, and now I've done it. So there we go. Hopefully I've helped you, and if you're just looking at buying a compressor and you've stumbled across this video, and maybe I've helped you think about what you need to think about, if that makes any sense. Think about what you need to think about. Yeah. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you later on. All the best, and remember, love life, because that's why we're here. to love it. Wouldn't be here otherwise.